Paradox, the Kabbalistic Path of Expanding Consciousness. Part 4, Introducing Eye Centers. We have defined paradox as a truth that is too deep for the logical mind to grasp in its fullness, and so instead the truth splits into two mutually exclusive half-truths that contradict each other and yet, irrationally, are both true. The world of color provides a model of how to conceive of paradox and how to grapple with it. All the colors in the world are made from mixing three primary hues, red, blue, and yellow. For example, the color green comes from mixing yellow and blue. The color green can serve as a kind of paradox. A person who sees the world through yellow-tinted glasses will look at green and focus on the yellow there. Conversely, one who views the world through blue-tinted glasses will look at that same green puddle and insist instead that it's a shade of blue. Each person comes with their bias, the lens of personality through which they view the world. One who leans toward the yellow side of the spectrum will unconsciously filter out the other colors and see primarily the yellow there. Similarly so for one who leans toward blue. And they're both right and they're both wrong, for in this case we know that green is equal parts blue and yellow. As simple as this example may seem, it actually does illustrate the underlying conditions that produce dispute. The eye is our porthole to the world. It defines our visual field, which divides the universe into what we can see and what lies beyond our perception. The world is a big place with lots going on, but most of it happens outside our awareness. If we don't see it, we can't incorporate it into our decisions. Some things are hidden because they are happening behind closed doors. We literally, physically cannot see them. Other things could be happening right before our eyes, but because of our psychological bias, they are effectively invisible, though others present may see them perfectly well. Take, for example, two people walking through the streets of Jerusalem. One person comments, "Oh, Jerusalem, the most beautiful city in the world," while another person comments, "Why is there so much garbage in the streets of this holy city?" Each personality is a lens that brings some portion of the universe into focus. Each soul comes into a body and a set of life circumstances which produce the contours of his or her visual field. An eye center is a point of consciousness that experiences the world with itself at the center. There is some real sense in which this is true. Everything in the universe is either in front, behind, right or left, above or below its reference point. Every person is an eye center, which is equally an EYE center. Eye center is a term that describes our personality's visual field. It includes our values, priorities, blind spots, precedents, conditioning, aptitudes, and genetic predispositions. In short, it comprises everything that impacts our view of the world. In the example that was our starting point, each person suffered from color blindness. One could see yellows but not blues, the other vice versa. Their eye centers were polar opposites. There was truth to both of their assertions. Let's look at some real-life examples. Let's start with the paradox of equality versus hierarchy. Beginning with equality, every soul is equally precious in a way that cannot be ranked. Every creature is one of a kind, uniquely fashioned to reveal a distinct facet of divine beauty. Everyone can truly say, "The world was created for me." Yet, from the perspective of hierarchy, some souls contribute to the world's forward motion in paradigm-shifting ways. They hold a bigger vision, make a bigger difference, and leave a bigger hole when they pass on. Or the paradox of acceptance versus exertion, starting with acceptance. Everything is in the hands of heaven. God provides me with all that I need. How could I possibly improve upon God's plan, which only has my best interests in mind? My job is to rejoice in my portion. Now, from the perspective of exertion, God has given me responsibility for charting a course for my life. I need to roll up my sleeves and get to work, setting goals to improve both myself and the world around me. This world is for work. The next world is to enjoy the fruits of our labor. Or the paradox of generosity versus self-protection. Starting with generosity. Just as Hashem is generous, so must we be generous. We are cells in the same collective organism. interconnected and interdependent. Anything truly good for one is always sure to be good for all. Generosity is the goal of a spiritual path. Yet, from the perspective of self-protection, my first responsibility is to care for my own soul and those of my dependents, to provide the resources necessary for survival and for actualizing our full potential. I can and must say no to all that detracts from our success. That was a sampling of the real-life paradoxes we will explore in this series. And so, in summary, paradoxes play themselves out on all scales. Sometimes they present a dilemma of how to respond to a challenge when both options are equally true, like the advice to follow your heart and to follow your head. Sometimes they play out on a collective scale, where people hold opposite poles of the paradox and condemn those promoting the other half of their paradoxical truth. The world is a big place with lots going on, some of which we see and some of which we don't. An eye center is the sum of what we see and the interpretations we make about it. Every eye center is different. Some are compatible and some are polar opposites. The latter proclaim paradoxical truths, which invariably cast them into dispute.